torn plastic, snapped wires, a gloved thumbprint. On January 31st, 2026, a predator stepped onto Nancy's porch. He moved with clinical precision. He knew the lens was watching. The doorbell camera caught the movement. Digital eyes. Exactly 4 seconds of footage, a silhouette frozen in the amber porch light, static, motionless, waiting in the cold air. Then, a sudden blur. A gloved hand reached up and ripped the hardware straight out of the door frame. Violence. The feed died. Instant blackness. Silence. On that porch, in the freezing dark, the intruder felt a surge. Victory. He stood there, breathing hard behind fabric. He thought the evidence was buried. Gone. He thought he'd erased the trail. He assumed he was a ghost, untraceable. He was wrong, dead wrong, a total, catastrophic failure of criminal judgment. He missed the invisible net. The FBI wasn't just looking through one tiny lens. They had the whole grid. The feds mapped the street. 6 separate glass eyes were watching. 6 systems, 6 angles, no place to hide. Each frame was a receipt. 6 timestamps documenting a surveillance pattern that began 21 days before Nancy vanished. Yanking that Ring camera didn't save him. It exposed him. It highlighted a predator pacing these sidewalks for weeks. The suspect thought that one desperate act bought him safety. Instead, it was a neon sign. His biggest mistake, that desperate yank told the feds a story. It screamed that this person understood the technology. It gave it away. It proved he was savvy, aware, paranoid. He knew he'd been caught, and that fear left a digital trail. This wasn't a random hit. No desperate addict. This wasn't a crime of opportunity. It was much darker, much worse. It was a blueprint, methodical, cold-blooded. This person had been studying Nancy's life in her home for weeks. While the predator watched Nancy, 6 unblinking eyes watched him. Every rehearsal, every dry run, every movement was recorded. The recon visits, the slow drives, the heavy breathing near the glass. The FBI has it all now. Every frame. The air in the Fed's war room is stale. They are watching the screen. This surveillance footage is the key. It is the crowbar they need. The alibi is cracking. The net is closing around a monster. The evidence grows. Investigators are piecing together the final moments before the house went quiet. They are building an ironclad case for justice. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old, a grandmother. On January 31st, her world just stopped. She disappeared. She vanished from Tucson. Savannah Guthrie, co-anchor of the Today Show, got the call. The worst phone call ever. Her sister Annie was on the line, trembling. "Mom is missing." 3 words that change a family's heart forever. Those words sparked a firestorm. The biggest manhunt Arizona has seen. The FBI hit the dirt with local sheriffs. The FBI joined forces with the Pima County Sheriff's Department. 20 investigators. 1 room. No sleep. Working the leads. They tore through the desert scrub. Divers hit the water. K-9 units strained at their leashes, searching for her. Days bled into weeks. The desert heat turned to cold nights. The focus changed from a search to a hunt. This wasn't a wandering mind. Nancy's mobility is gone. She can barely walk 5 feet. She was taken. This was a snatch and grab. Planned, meticulous. The Ring footage wasn't just a lead, it was the foundation. The doorbell camera was the silent witness. The only one left. The cornerstone of a case built on digital dust. On February 10th, 9 days later, the FBI stopped waiting. They dropped the still of the masked man. It hit the internet like a bomb. Viral. Thousands of shares in minutes. Everyone was looking at those dead eyes. It was on every screen. Social media was a wildfire of speculation. People wanted blood. They wanted Nancy home. Billboards across the state loomed over the highways. "Have you seen him?" The tips started coming in. A massive deluge. Hundreds of calls in 72 hours. But while the public looked at the face, the FBI looked at metadata. They pulled the timestamps. They synced the clocks. They looked at the porch light. And then, they found it. A discovery was made. One that flipped the table. One that changed the when and the who entirely. That image of the masked man, the one everyone thought was the night she vanished, it wasn't. Not even close. It wasn't from January 31st. It was from weeks before. A rehearsal. A ghost caught during a dry run. This wasn't just a detail. It was a transformation. It meant the predator had been living in her peripheral vision. If he was there before, he knew her. He knew the locks. He knew the silence of her hallway. He belonged. This wasn't a lucky break for a thief. It was a long-term siege. A predator stalking an 84-year-old. Sheriff Chris Nanos didn't mince words. His statement was clipped, professional, deadly serious. He knew the truth was coming. He confirmed the fear. The camera caught a ghost from the past. A visit that happened long before the end. Grainy pixels, frozen time, mid-January. The lead detective stayed stone-faced, refusing to leak a single detail about the evidence or the digital breadcrumbs that led them to this grim new theory. Just a wall of silence. But he let one heavy truth slip. A turning point. Investigators are now scouring the neighborhood for glass-eyed witnesses, surveillance footage from 2 very specific dates. Nights the neighbors ignored. Dead air. These dates seemed random, just more cold winter evenings to the people living there. But to the feds, they were everything. The skeleton of a nightmare. January 11th. January 24th. Just numbers on a calendar until you look closer. Now, they're the most critical pieces of a timeline built on blood and intent. 3 weeks out. Then 1 week out. The math of a predator. These weren't drive-bys. They were dry runs. Reconnaissance. Cold. Calculated. Executed with military precision. This is the playbook. Pure textbook surveillance behavior. Spooks at the agency call it pattern of life analysis. It is a methodology taught to intelligence officers in the dark. Military special operations units drill these exact tactics until they're second nature, and the criminals who plan high-stakes hits use those same cold principles. You don't just show up. You don't kick in a door on the big night and hope for luck. Luck is for the unprepared. Predators want certainty. They want the win. So you ghost the perimeter first. You scout the location. You observe the daily rhythms. You identify every lens and every motion sensor. You count the barks from the neighbor's yard. You clock which houses have dogs, which neighbors work the late shift, and which streets carry the most traffic. You find the streets that turn into ghost towns after midnight. You learn every exit. Then, you come back to verify nothing has shifted. That's exactly what happened during those visits. The hunter was learning, timing, planning, making sure every second was accounted for. But here is the one fatal mistake this suspect made. He assumed the cameras he could see were the only eyes watching him. He was a student of the kill, but he was arrogant. He focused on the obvious. He spotted the Ring doorbell at the front entrance, a plastic eye staring him down. He probably felt smart, dodging the visible security cameras mounted high under the eaves. He likely noted the garage unit and the front porch lights, but he was blind to the deep tech. The silent observers tucked away where he didn't bother to look. Those hidden systems, the less obvious lenses, captured every breath he took. Everything. And those cameras are the silent witnesses that saw the truth. Let me walk you through what the FBI found. Because once the suits moved in and started pulling footage from a 5-block radius, the net started closing fast. They began the painstaking process of reviewing thousands of hours of video. It was an agonizing, slow-motion search for a ghost. Then, they hit pay dirt. This suspect wasn't a phantom. He was a lead actor on a dozen different digital stages. He had been caught on camera multiple times. Not once. Not twice. Over and over. Every angle told a different part of the lie. But together, they told the brutal truth. Each perspective was another piece of the puzzle falling into place. When you stitch them together, the crime disappears, and a complete operational plan emerges, unfolding across 3 weeks of patient hunting. Camera 1, the Ring doorbell at Nancy's front door. Everyone knows this one. It's the lens that captured that iconic, terrifying image of the masked suspect. It's the one he reached out and violently yanked off the siding. He thought he was killing the witness. He thought he was winning. But understanding how these units work is crucial to seeing why that act of aggression was so futile. Brute force against a digital ghost. Ring doorbells don't keep secrets inside their plastic shells. They don't store a single byte of video locally on the device itself. They stream everything to the cloud in real time. The very second that camera catches a movement, That image is already screaming across the Wi-Fi to Amazon servers. Encrypted, stored, safe. Ripping that unit off the wall stops the future, but it does absolutely nothing to erase what has already been sent. The suspect thought he was destroying the evidence. He was actually confirming it existed. He gave them the final proof of his own violence. Camera 2. Mounted on a weathered wooden fence at the very back of the property. You wouldn't even see it if you were approaching from the street. It was angled away from the world, focused entirely on the rear entrance and the back patio area, the private spaces, the places where he felt safe. He either missed this lens during his military-style walks, or he just didn't think it mattered. He was a front-door kind of predator. Either way, the red light was on. It was recording. And on the morning Nancy vanished, when the family walked into that house, they found a chilling sight. Multiple back doors were propped wide open, a draft in the house, dead silence. Investigators immediately looked at that fence camera. If the suspect used those back doors at any point during the snatch, or if he entered through the rear or propped those doors early, camera 2 saw it. It likely captured the exact moment the peace of that home was shattered. Every movement in the dark was saved to a server miles away. If he exited that way or used the yard as a staging ground, that little box on the fence has the answers. It's the silent witness to her final moments. Camera 3 monitors the driveway and the front of the garage. According to sources close to the case, this lens has been running continuously for months. It saw the mundane, the kids, the car keys, the life Nancy built. It captured the normal daily rhythm of a family coming and going. Landscapers on Tuesdays, the pool maintenance guy, mail carriers and delivery drivers dropping off boxes. It's the pulse of an upscale neighborhood. Safe, quiet, predictable. Exactly what you'd expect until you start looking for the glitch in the matrix. The thing that doesn't fit. When investigators started hunting for anomalies on those specific nights in January, they found them. Sharp, clear, damning, steel and rubber that didn't belong on that asphalt. Cars rolling past slowly, multiple passes in a single night. A predator circling. Vehicles stopping briefly near the property line before vanishing into the night. And some of those ghosts appeared on more than one date. The same car, showing up during the first recon visit, appearing again during the second, then potentially rolling up on the night she disappeared. That is not a coincidence. That is a signature, a cold, hard pattern. And it all leads to camera 4, grainy lens, cold plastic. 2 doors down from Nancy's porch, another Ring camera sat bolted to the doorframe, a silent sentinel in the dark. The lens stared at the neighbor's welcome mat, but its wide peripheral caught the street. Cold, gray, unforgiving, deep in the dead of January, during one particular midnight stretch. This little plastic eye saw something significant. A shape, human. It drifted down the sidewalk, feet barely making a sound, eyes fixed on Nancy's house. Slow, deliberate, watching. The digital clock in the corner ticks. It matches the exact dates they were being hunted. Reconnaissance. The footage is a blurred mess of pixels and static, but it's him. He's right there, a ghost documented in the neighborhood. This is the proof. He wasn't passing through. He was hunting. He was waiting. It's a jigsaw puzzle of data. Piece by piece, an airtight timeline starts to suffocate him. Camera 5 hangs over the intersection 3 blocks out. A cold, mechanical bird watching the asphalt. These machines aren't built to find a missing woman, but they never sleep. They just keep recording. They're meant for red lights and speeders, but they catch everything. Every headlight, every bumper, every sin. If you drove through that intersection, the city has you on file. Every vehicle, every time. FBI agents scrubbed through hours of gray footage until the screen flickered with something that changed the entire game. A dark sedan. 6 times. It crawled through the frame 6 separate times over 21 days. Not once, not twice. 6 separate nights. Always in that same dead window of the late evening. Every single time, that car was headed straight toward Nancy's street. Like a shark circling its prey. 6 visits, 6 timestamps, 6 pieces of evidence documenting a predator's pattern. It's premeditated, cold-blooded. If investigators can pull that license plate, the hunt is over. He's done. Camera 6 clings to a brick wall 2 blocks away, a commercial building's silent, unblinking witness. The owners wanted to stop car thieves in the lot. They caught a predator instead. The lens looks past the parking lines, staring out at the black strip of the public road. Sources say the glass caught a car peeling away from the scene, fleeing into the night. February 1st. Early morning. The exact moment the air went cold and Nancy was stolen away. Techs are scrubbing the grain, trying to pull a plate or a dent with absolute certainty. That car is a rolling crime scene. 6 cameras. 6 angles. No place left to hide. He moved like he was invisible, but he was being watched. He only knew about the one. He reached out and ripped Nancy's camera off the wall, thinking he was safe. He was wrong. He didn't see the traffic cameras. He didn't know the city logged his moves 6 separate times. Neighbors were watching too. Their lenses overlapped, weaving a net. The FBI has it all now. The Bureau is sweating the details, frame by frame, enhancing the dark and tracking the tires. They're mapping his life, minute by minute. 3 weeks of his movements laid out on a cold table. In that mountain of ones and zeros, there's a face, a name, a monster waiting to be found. Then there's Cameron Guthrie. Most people see a brother, but his role is much more lethal. Cameron is Savannah's blood, but he's also a highly trained military intel officer and a fighter pilot. He spent years spotting threats and recognizing patterns. It was his job, his life. When the phone rang on February 1st, he didn't need a committee. He didn't hesitate. Savannah's voice was shaking. She described the open back doors, the heavy, dead silence in the house. The Ring camera was gone, just a hole in the wall and blood on the cold doorstep. Nancy was gone. No phone. No meds. Not even her shoes to protect her feet from the pavement. She was in her pajamas, vulnerable, a detail that would break most, but Cameron's training flipped a switch. His military brain took over. He assessed the data like a battlefield briefing. Cold. Clinical. He didn't hesitate. He told Savannah, "I think she's been kidnapped for ransom." Savannah was terrified. Why her? Why their mother? Who would even think to do this? But Cameron saw the hallmarks. The quiet, professional marks of a planned operation. The dead camera was a tactical move, operational security, and the house was untouched. Pure kidnapping. Forced entry. 0 stolen valuables. A bedroom door splintered and hanging. This wasn't a botched robbery. It was a hunt. A professional snatch and grab. A predator chose Nancy Guthrie. Picked her out. The motive sat in the cold, hard logic of greed. Total calculation. Savannah Guthrie was a household name, a national face. That meant a massive payday for a monster. Ransom. The math was right. Every cent. Days bled into a nightmare. Then the envelopes arrived. Envelopes filled with demands, sent to newsrooms, to cameras. But Savannah knew the truth. She told Hoda the ugly reality. Most were garbage, fake, cruel lies from bottom feeders, scavengers feeding on a family's bleeding heart. Just noise. They wanted a quick buck from a tragedy. The family saw through it. The words were empty, vague, nothing real, no weight, no proof of life, no secrets shared, just ghosts in the mail. They didn't have Nancy. They didn't know a thing about her fate. Then came the shift. 2 letters, hand-delivered to the family. They felt different. Heavy. They held a terrifying truth the others lacked. Pure evidence. Secrets. Insider knowledge. Savannah felt the air leave the room. These notes described the private corners of Nancy's sanctuary, the things inside, and the world outside her walls. Facts only a stalker could know. Someone who'd sat in the dark, watching, learning, studying every inch. Long-term surveillance. What did they see? The cops are keeping it quiet. The family is locked down. Total silence on the details. For now, confidentiality is a shield. But we know how these predators move. We can see the patterns in the dark. We know their methods. They knew the floor plan, how many rooms, the exact shade of the walls, the hard, cold grain of the wood floors, every corner, where the sofa sat, which lamp stayed on, objects only visible to a ghost standing in the kitchen, or a voyeur, a watcher. Someone who peeked through the glass while Nancy slept. They saw the faces in the picture frames, the family photos, the quiet life, a painting on the wall, the way the TV sat, the brand of the toaster. Proof. Hard proof they were there. In the room, they had eyes on her life. Then came the exterior details, the land, the dirt, the way the house breathed in the night, the curve of the driveway, where the garage hid, the exact height of the fence, every bush, every single security camera lens, the heavy wood of the front door, the concrete of the porch, the patio stones, the still, blue water of the pool, dead quiet. Evidence of a student. Someone who studied Nancy's home like a textbook. Here is the terrifying reality of that. The deep truth. The writer was the man on the tape, the one doing the recon, the one watching, waiting. The camera didn't lie. He was there. They walked that ground, counted the steps, memorized the exits. Mental notes, maybe photos, a blueprint for a crime, a map of fear, every corner, every lock. Intimate knowledge bought with time. Weeks of stalking. Deep, patient planning. No mistakes allowed. This is Cameron's world. Military intel. He knows how a target is prepped. He sees the tactical movement, the hidden hand. Snatching a rich man's wife or a star's mother? It's a mission. It's calculated. It's not an accident. It's a job. High-profile targets don't get hit by luck. This was months of work. A slow, agonizing burn toward violence. A patient clock ticking. They watch her coffee run. Her mail trip. They find the weak spot. The broken latch. They wait for the right second. The strike. Back alleys for the getaway. A place to hide the body. Enough intel to hold the family's heart in their hands. Total leverage. Proof of possession. That's the hammer. Cameron walked through Nancy's empty house and smelled the tradecraft. He knew. He felt it. He pointed the way. Now, look at the hard hats. The crew. The FBI is looking at the construction angle. Hard. Very hard. Brian Enton broke it. The feds are back in the neighborhood, knocking on doors, asking about the hammers and saws. The men, they're haunting the Catalina foothills, checking every renovation, every job site. They want names. They want faces. They want blood. January. That's the timeline. Who was swinging a hammer? Which house was being ripped apart? Who was there in the cold? Every contractor, every temp worker, every beat-up white van. They're tracking every tire track in the Arizona dirt, every lead. Clock-in times. Lunch breaks. These aren't random questions. The FBI has a lead. They have a scent. They're closing in. A worker. A mole. Someone with a clipboard and a vest. It's tactical brilliance. Hide in plain sight. Be the background noise. Surveillance is hard. Unless you have an excuse. A reason to stand on the sidewalk for 8 hours. A reason to look. A permit. A toolbox. The perfect lie. These hills are rich, full of money, full of noise, full of secrets. Mansions getting facelifts. New wings. Constant dust. Constant chaos. It's a goldmine for a predator. A place to disappear. A sea of orange vests. Landscapers. Plumbers. Subcontractors. A rotating door of strangers in a gated world. All invisible. Big rigs, work boots, heavy belts. They walk the property lines. They carry ladders. Nobody blinks. Nobody looks twice. Taking measurements. Dropping off lumber. They belong there. They're invisible because they're expected. Part of the scenery. Total invisibility. If you wanted Nancy, you'd park the truck by the scaffolding. Sit. Watch. Wait. Become the air. A masterstroke. You sit in that cab for 6 hours. Sip lukewarm coffee. Stare at her front door. Learn her life. Not a single suspicious glance. Carry a red toolbox. Walk right past her window. You're just another worker. Until you aren't. Skin cells on a door. Blood on the floor. A predator knocks, wearing high-vis, lying about a lost address. He sat. He watched. In the cold cab, he mapped every routine, every single light turning off, every angle, every lens. The Bureau is hunting for every hammer and nail present in that January desert. They are scouring the foothills, demanding payroll names from every contractor working under that hot, unforgiving sun. No hiding. Every subcontractor's past is dragged out, searching for one single violent crack in their history. Companies within a half-mile of Annie's door are cataloged, their projects mapped against the dry desert floor. Feds are building a digital grid, overlaying work logs with every single frame of surveillance they have seized. A hard hat near Annie's house at midnight? That is not a worker. That is a monster caught on camera. If the clock says 3 a.m. and a camera shows his face, he becomes their priority suspect. Past sins matter. Burglary, kidnapping, any ties to the underworld, they move to the front of the list. The empty house, a dead space near Annie's home that federal agents are now dissecting for secrets. Agents are pounding pavement, asking neighbors about the home that went silent just before Annie vanished forever. They need to know who held keys, who walked halls, and what cars sat in that driveway. An empty house is a gift. A cold, quiet place to sit, wait, and watch his prey. A staging ground. Somewhere to tuck a getaway vehicle where no one thinks to ask a single question. It is the perfect perch, a place to stare from the safety of those dark, unlit windows. A locker for tools. A private room to swap bloody clothes for a clean shirt before dawn. He leaves things, hair, skin, tread marks in the dirt, forensic markers of a total nightmare. If he used that house as his base, he left a ghost of himself in the dust. Maybe a neighbor's lens caught a figure moving through the yard while the house was empty. Maybe he left sweat. Or maybe his phone screamed his location to a tower at night. Records tell stories. Owners. Managers. The paper trail that leads to whoever had the legal right. Feds are squeezing agents and workers looking for the one face that did not belong there. One link. One name. If that house touches him, the trap snaps shut, piece by piece. The microscopic truth, DNA, the hammer that is going to break this entire case wide open. Sheriff Nanos dropped a bombshell. Annie's home gave up secrets now sitting in 2 separate labs. This is not standard. 2 labs means the stakes are high and the evidence is messy. It could be ruined, rotted, or it is so complex it needs a specialist's steady hand. Or it is a crowd. Genetic material from several people mashed in one violent stain. They have to peel it apart, isolate the victim from the monster. One strand of life. Mixed DNA is a nightmare. A puzzle where you throw away the pieces that belong there. Filter out the friends. The plumber. Find the one code that should not be in that room. 2 labs means they are hunting ancestors. They are building a family tree out of blood. This science put handcuffs on the Golden State Killer after 40 long, silent years. They take that killer's code and upload it to sites people use to find their kin. They are looking for relatives. Someone who shares his blood, his history, and his face. A distant cousin. Someone normal who shares a sliver of the same genetic blueprint. 3rd cousins. 4th cousins. Connected by a great-grandfather they never knew, all leading back. A match hits. They build family trees, tracking descendants through every generation to find the link to him. Branches are cut. The list shrinks to a few names that fit his profile perfectly. The trap is set. Traditional detective work takes the lead to finish this. Detectives become ghosts. They tail every suspect, waiting for one single, careless mistake. A coffee cup in the trash. A cigarette butt. A napkin abandoned at lunch. Anything he touched and left behind. That trash is the final rope for his neck. A microscopic flake of skin. A single droplet of dried blood. You match that to the crime scene, and the hunt is over. The evidence is absolute. C.C. Moore is the undisputed queen of genetic genealogy. She is the best in the business. She has closed 200 cold cases, dead ends turned into convictions. In a recent interview, she spoke about the new reality. She told a podcast that DNA tech has become surgically precise, terribly sensitive. She said, quote, "We can solve these cases now with just a rootless hair." End quote. That's the new world. Microscopic biological ghosts. They yield full genetic blueprints, one skin cell, one bead of sweat, a fragment of hair you cannot even see. If that monster left a trace in Nancy's quiet home, and they did, it is impossible to enter a room without bleeding life. Every breath leaves a mark. That DNA is in a lab right now. Scientists are feeding it into the machines, into the massive digital vaults. It is hunting through millions of profiles for a name, a face. But this science moves slow. Genealogy is not a TV show. Extraction takes weeks of silence. The profiling is a slow burn. Then the upload begins. You wait weeks for a hit. Then the real work starts. Building family trees. It is a hunt through bloodlines and history. They dig through birth certificates, marriage licenses, death notices, census rolls, military files, old immigration papers, decades of paper trails, tracing ghosts across generations. Then comes the groundwork, tracking down relatives, watching them from unmarked cars, waiting, snatching a discarded coffee cup for a sample. It takes months, but the science is a hammer. It hits hard. The math does not lie. But Nancy does not have months. She is 84. The clock is a physical weight on this case. Her heart is a fragile engine. It needs daily pills to keep her pacemaker in rhythm. Without that chemistry, the engine stalls. Her pulse would start to skip, stutter, then stop. A major cardiac event is inevitable. And they took her. No pills. No phone. Bare feet on cold ground. They dragged her out in nothing but her thin, worn-out pajamas. 55 days of silence, 55 nights in the cold. Every doctor who looks at her chart says the same grim thing. Without those pills, without her bed, without care, her chance of survival vanishes. It drops with every sunset. It is basic biology. The math of death is accelerating. For the cops, it is a fever pitch. A desperate, sweating urgency to find her. This is not just a case file. It is a rescue mission against a ticking clock. They want Nancy breathing. They know the stakes. Every hour is a wound. That is why the Bureau threw everything at this. The full weight of the federal government. They are scrubbing through thousands of hours of grainy tape, weeks of footage, every camera in the city. They are burning up the labs, running DNA in parallel, kicking in doors, bagging phones, sweating every laborer who set foot in that neighborhood. No stone left. Every worker, every transient. Because the truth is buried in that mountain of data. The key to Nancy Guthrie is there. February brought 2 raids wrapped in silence, 2 doors kicked, 2 locations swarmed by federal agents in the pre-dawn cold. One house in Rio Rico, right on the border. They put a man named Carlos in zipties. They took his phone, his lifeline, seized it. The second hit was closer, 2 miles from Nancy's front door. They grabbed another man in the dead quiet. Took his phone too, but neither man is in orange. No charges, not for Nancy, not yet. Just silence from the feds. The warrants are locked tight, sealed by a judge. We do not know what blood or breadcrumbs led the FBI to them. But Maureen O'Connell knows the game. She spent decades in the Bureau. She sees the patterns the public misses. She says, it is about the eyes on the street. She thinks these men were not picked at random. Their steel and glass gave them away. Their trucks or sedans caught on a doorbell cam. A grainy image of a bumper or a hood. Moving through the neighborhood. Driving past Nancy's house when the world was asleep. Maybe a traffic cam flashed. A digital eye recording a plate number. Or a home security system caught a glimpse. Why them? Maybe a witness saw a car that looked just like theirs. Close enough. The Bureau wanted the glass in their pockets. Smartphones are the ultimate snitches. They hold the secrets of every waking second. A digital diary of every move. GPS breadcrumbs, pinpointing a person within 3 meters of where they stood in the dark. Call logs, a map of who they talked to, when they whispered, texts that could be a blueprint for a crime. Talking to partners in the dark, photos of Nancy's fence, her windows, her routine, all saved in the cloud. Waiting, search histories, looking for ransom notes, or how to bypass a pacemaker. Every click is a fingerprint, all of it. The tech guys at the Bureau are digging through the code now, but one fact from those raids sticks out. It is heavy. One of the targets just bought a Range Rover, a big, expensive piece of machinery. He claimed he picked it up for $17,400. Pure cash. Just 14 days before Nancy was snatched from her bed. The timing is suffocating. It screams for an answer. Why buy a getaway car a week before a grab? Is it a coincidence or a plan? Cold data on a drive. Grainy pixels moving. Was this luck? Or a hunter's cold, specific steel tool? A ghost car, no commute, no history. A cash-bought steel cage meant to leave no paper trails behind. If that Range Rover glides past neighborhood lenses multiple times, it's not a car. It is a predator. It is a smoking gun. Pure evidence. But for now, the courtrooms are empty and charges are pending. These suspects aren't clear. Not yet. Former Fed Jennifer Coffindaffer says the clock is ticking for them. Her analysis cuts deep. She says the hunt for Nancy is burning red hot behind the Bureau's doors. Silence isn't failure. A lack of handcuffs doesn't mean the trail is cold. The heat is internal now. Feds are drinking from a fire hose. They have more leads than they can handle. The flood is constant. This file is wide open. Every angle is active. They're hitting every lead with everything they have now. Lenses are being enhanced. DNA is under the microscope. The lab is working through the dead night. Seized phones are being cracked. Witnesses are being pushed. The pressure is mounting on every single suspect. Tips are pouring in. This isn't a slow burn. It's a massive, synchronized push toward the final truth. The snap of plastic. Ripping that Ring camera off the wall was a desperate, amateurish, and fatal blunder. They thought one lens was the threat. They missed 5 others. Pure arrogance blinded them to the reality. City cameras caught that paint job 6 times. 6 digital footprints left on the cold, gray asphalt roads. Neighbors' porches were watching. They saw the dry runs. They saw the preparation for this specific nightmare. The Bureau built a 3-week timeline. Every turn, every park, every minute of their plan is documented. Tearing that camera down didn't hide anything. It just proved they knew they were being watched. Its intent. That act of desperation pointed the feds exactly where to look next. It was a clear neon sign. Nancy's family is offering $1 million, a massive sum for the truth, for a way back home. The Bureau added $100,000. A mountain of cash sits on the table. That is $1.1 million for one call. If you live in the Catalina foothills, look, check your drives, check the corners of your frames. If you have any footage, hand it over now. Look for the out of place, the loiterer, the strange car idling in the silence. Pick up the phone. Dial 1-800-22-55324. That is 1-800-CALL-FBI. Think back to January, construction crews, shifty men, someone who suddenly lost their nerve. Call the Bureau. Who left town in a hurry? Who bought a new ride? Who can't look you in the eye? Who bought a car before the grab? Someone knows something. Call now. End the long, agonizing wait. The silent witnesses saw everything. 6 different lenses caught the truth that the killer thought he'd buried. This investigation is moving fast. The tech is catching up to a monster who thought he was invisible. The Bureau likely has a name. They're just waiting for the final piece of this puzzle now. The glass eyes were watching. The suspect revealed everything without even knowing the cameras existed in the dark.